Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Valerie Z, the founder of Spiritual Cardio, a 10-week group coaching program that teaches women how to make peace with their inner truth and practice self-love, where we heal in community by interrogating our inner demons until they lose power over us. I'm bringing you the powerful spiritual practices that helped birth my transformation because I want the same for you. I'm going to teach you how to build a love story with yourself and your inner child. So let's go. I'm sure you guys know by now how much I love doing this show. I pour my heart and soul into each episode to create a ripple effect of healing and self-awareness in the world. And you guys can help me make that little ripple into a wave. So I ask that if you find value in this episode, or if you had any aha moments, or if the show helps you navigate your life in a more positive direction, please share the show. It would mean so much to me if you would do that. And now let's get into it. Hi, everyone. This is Valerie Z. Thank you for coming back and tuning in to the Spiritual Cardio podcast. This is episode 20. This year, I'm doing more collaborations. So what better way to share the impact and inspiration of spiritual cardio than bringing some of my previous clients on the show to talk about their personal transformation. In this episode, I talk with Michelle Mancilla from Long Beach, California. She signed up for spiritual cardio a few years ago during the pandemic. She really wanted to improve the relationship she had with herself and recognized the timing was perfect because the world was closed down due to COVID and there was no distractions or excuses. And she also recognized she was stuck in a dead-end relationship and rescuing herself was her only option. Since completing the program, she found the courage to set boundaries not only with family, but with friends too. She found the courage to get her own place, and she met an amazing partner. So let's get into it. First, let's just start off with who you are, and then what challenges were you facing at the time that attracted you to the program?
Okay, so my name's Michelle Mancilla. At the time, I recall it was the beginning stages of the pandemic when you approached me about your program, about spiritual cardio. Honestly, it just during the pandemic, it gave me more time to realize there's a lot, just shutting down everything. The world was shut down. The work was, we weren't going to work. I was furloughed. We were all at home. It made me really look inward and sit by myself and realize, there's a lot of things I've been distracted from. There's a lot of things I've been just not really facing in a way. During the pandemic, I had that alone time. I realized, now it's time to really look inward, do the work, and realize how when everything's done and everything starts to open up and the pandemic's closed, where am I going to be in my life? How am I going to be moving forward with myself? Those are a lot of the challenges I was facing, and then realizing I was in a relationship where it wasn't going anywhere. The pandemic really tested us, okay, this isn't going anywhere. This is not someone I can rely on emotionally, anything. So I realized I had to be there for myself, grow emotionally for myself, by myself. And that's when being part of spiritual cardio really, really kicked things off. It really kicked things off, put things in a lot of perspective. Your program really asked the questions. It was like asking yourself the hard questions that you don't normally ask yourself unless you're in a program like spiritual cardio, to really someone taking accountability, asking you questions, giving you exercises that make you really look inward and test yourself and really be honest with yourself, have those honest conversations.
Yeah, it's a program about like getting radically honest with yourself to figure out what's holding you back. If you're recognizing you're stuck in a rut of a relationship, but you're not willing to get out, well, what is that? Why are you not willing to get out if you know that you're not fulfilled and this is not the right person for you? Well, then you have to start asking yourself questions about self worth. Maybe there's a self love deficit. Maybe you think this is the best you can get. So it's getting radically honest with yourself about the experiences you've had in the past so that you can identify what those insecurities are, what those wounds are, so that you can heal them. And then you find the courage and the strength to leave something that's not serving you, whether it be a relationship,
Exactly.
whether it's like some sort of addiction or, boundaries too, like forming boundaries with people. Yeah, the pandemic was a big one for a lot of people. The timing of when I started spiritual cardio, I looking back now, I didn't recognize like the significance of the timing.
It was perfect in my opinion because I was able to, you know, okay, there's no distractions, there's no excuses. It's not like, oh, I can't be at home for the hour, that we were sitting down and talking
Yeah.
and, so it's like, okay, there's no excuses. Let's do this.
Yeah. What were some of the breakthroughs or like aha moments you had throughout the program, if you can recall any?
The biggest aha moment was
Yeah.
the inner child working, the workings of
Mm,
like your inner child. I've read a few self-help books. I've been to conferences, I've been part of seminars. They usually like skip over that. Like that's not something their focus is, like to
mm,
really like tap into your inner child, a
yeah.
lot of that. So with your program, like that was a big one. That was like a big focus that ultimately helped me really dig deep and realize like, okay, it's my inner child that I'm healing. It's not just Michelle right now. It's not just the 20 something year old Michelle. It's like, no, it's the child Michelle. Like what
Yeah.
happened, what's the root of a lot of my bad habits, negative thoughts,
Yeah.
and why everything is, your program really helped me break it down, like my inner child traumas. That was impactful, so impactful.
Absolutely, because we go through life not realizing that we're in some sort of survival mode, whether we're silencing the inner child or suppressing her in some sort of way. Like, when was she ever able to express herself and be fully seen and heard? Well, in childhood, our parents were dealing with their own shit. So there was no being seen and heard, especially with like Latino parents. I don't think they have,
Exactly.
yeah, they don't have like the capacity because they're on their own survival mode, right? So that's why it's so important to do the work with ourselves and through spiritual cardio, because you're finally giving your inner child a chance to speak, to be seen and heard, and heal her. And you're the only one that can do it. You're the only one that can do it. Your mom can't do it. Your dad can't do it. Like, only you can do the work with her and for her. And then when you become one with her, because you've finally allowed yourself to take the time to hear her and understand her, is when you become one with her. And that's when your life starts changing. You discover your power.
Exactly. So that's what differentiated spiritual cardio from any other thing, any other, Tony Robbins, any other different guru out there. It really just, the focus about, healing your inner child is the main priority that I felt through this program, what like helped me the most.
And that's where it starts, is the self-inquiry with what we've experienced in childhood. Like, that's week 1, and it's so important to go there, because in order to understand where you're at right now, you have to go back to the past. You have to. So the inner child work is also what you liked most about the program. Was there anything else that stood out to you?
Yeah, so just your structure, the structure of the weekly implementation that we were practicing, that really helped me a lot. And also was something that you were able to just take and run with and make immediate action plans for yourself and like immediate just action in general. That's something that really stuck out and I appreciated about your program.
Yeah, because with spiritual cardio, week 1, we hit the ground running. Like, there is no easing into it. It's self-inquiry from the jump. I give you the prompts, you go and do it. The following week, we come back and we talk about it. What did you think about the duration of the program? Like, do you think the 10 weeks was enough to digest all of the practices? Because and the reason why I asked that is because some people or business advisors will say, well, you need to cut it shorter. Spiritual cardio needs to be shorter, but I don't want to rush. This is not the type of work that you can rush through, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's not the type of work you can rush through. And also, there's just so much, and the quality that you give with those 10 weeks, it's like you're not doing something so half assed, you know?
Right.
That's something that I really appreciated. And yeah, I wouldn't say that, especially because we're always constantly working on ourselves. Like spiritual cardio is not something you do for 10 weeks. It's something you take and you always have like the tools in your tool belt to go back and say, well, like I might need week 1, like to really look into week 1 again. Like I need to do that self inquiry. I need to come back and we're always at different stages in our lives. Those 10 weeks is just it's a lot for you to keep going and use in your life in different stages. So I wouldn't say the duration was too much, especially because I feel like it went by so fast.
It did.
Yeah.
Whenever I wrap up spiritual cardio with the group of women, it's like week 10 is always so emotional. It's like bittersweet. I mean, one, I'm filled with gratitude and so much excitement for what's to come for you guys. But then there's also this like, ugh, that's it. Like, our time together for this group of women is has come to an end. Yeah, I always get emotional with week 10.
Yeah, and then for me, I was like, "That's oh man, like I want to keep doing this." I feel like you can never get enough of this, like self
Yeah,
growth, spiritual healing. Like
yeah.
it's an ongoing practice we have to all put in.
Yeah, and it's like going to church, you know? It's like this uplifting talk session where you get to connect with other women as well and hear their stories. So it's very uplifting. It's very moving to see or witness other women's like vulnerability and then also them owning their story.
Yeah, exactly. And just knowing that there are other women out there that are going through a lot of the similar things and just seeing different perspectives of the way that they're going through things. Sometimes even I was like, wow, it humbles you. Like you think you go through so much and it's all about you, but then it's like that perspective of, wow, my sister here, who's part of the program is also going through something, like you start to kind of see like, oh wow, like at the end of the day, even though we have different walks of life, we go through a lot of similarities and everyone some even have it worse than others. And it's nice to just be able to see it in perspective that we're all dealing with the same kind of stuff at the in like a different level, but it's all very like we can relate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and that's why spiritual cardio is so powerful is because there's collective healing. It's like knowing that you're not alone. The other women have a unique story, but you are all going through something. And it's comforting to know that these other women are also on a path of healing. So you don't feel alone. So which practice or practices do you think impacted you the most?
From what I recall, it was being able to understand that there's some habits that we need to all break that aren't serving and having to really just be honest with yourself. And then also admitting just like addictions. I think that was hard. That was one of the practices that we did, like admitting our addictions. It's kind of like being honest with yourself about, okay, even though to me it's not as bad, like it really is. It really is self destructing like some behaviors are self-destructive, and it's just eventually like what has to give to really like make you make the change. I remember that was one of the things that we went into during spiritual cardio, and it kind of like hit me like, okay, even though I haven't really hit rock bottom in certain areas, like I'm kind of heading that way.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Spiritual cardio is a program about getting radically honest with yourself. It's a program about taking the time to reflect, going back to the past in the self inquiry so that we can understand how we got to the place we are now. And then you have to get radically honest with yourself about where you're at in your life now and what can you do differently, what is not serving you. And sometimes we don't want to know what isn't serving us because we're comfortable with it, whether that be some sort of addiction, whether that be some sort of toxic relationship or something, right? There's something that's not serving us. So getting radically honest with ourselves without buffers, without ego, because truly you've arrived at this program because you want to change, you want to transform your life. So why are you here if you're not willing to get honest? It's important to go there. And that's why one of the practices in spiritual cardio is about sobriety. It's not a program about getting sober, but it is a program about radical self honesty. Right. And so if there's something in your life that is not serving you or causing some sort of destructive behavioral pattern, you have to get honest with yourself so that you can transform
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I recall during this program that I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is the first time, it was like it really hit me. It hit
Yeah.
me like it literally felt like a truck hit me. Like, okay, look, this is just being honest with yourself, being honest with your like habits and your patterns and what is really self-destructing in a way.
Yeah, because the whole point of transformation and personal growth is to stop the destructive patterns and cultivate the habits and the mindset that is going to help us transform our lives. Because ultimately, we want to be the best version of ourselves, right? We want to be happier individuals. We want to be more fulfilled. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, it starts with honesty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
spiritual part that you integrate is very important.
Hmm.
Your faith and growing in your faith, that was very significant to me as well. And because of spiritual cardio, I was able to keep that thirst for spiritual growth and to grow my relationship with God. So it pretty much sparked for me to seek more help in that way, like seeking my relationship with God to be, growing in that way, like
Yeah.
growing my relationship with God. I didn't realize until your program, but like it self growth and spiritual growth is hand in
Mm.
hand. Like there's
Yeah.
there's always the bigger power like there to help you and just be there to help with prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we have to have faith in something, right? Something is carrying us through our lives, through all of the tumultuous things that we've experienced. Something is carrying us through. So I think having some sort of faith, whether it be in the universe, in God, in the Virgin Mary, and Buddha, whatever it is, pray to that God. Pray to your God, but pray to something that you believe in, that you have faith in, and cultivate that connection because that is helping you carry yourself through the darkest times.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the reason I started spiritual cardio, I mean, there's so many reasons, but is meditation and spirituality helped me transform my life. That's why it's called spiritual cardio, is because just as we go to the gym to nurture our physical bodies, we have to do the things that cultivate joy within ourselves and nurture our spiritual wellness, our spiritual well-being. Because if we don't do that, then yeah, we can look good, right? If we go to the gym and have our green smoothies, but like, do we feel good on the inside? Do we feel good about ourselves? Are we centered? Are we whole? That's why spirituality and nurturing our spiritual wellness is very important. I was doing therapy and therapy was helping, but when I integrated spirituality into my personal growth journey, I mean, things started shifting fast. It was a rapid growth. All of that coupled with sobriety, I mean, my life completely transformed. I'm just a whole other person. All of those components with the creative talent of writing helped me put spiritual cardio together into a book proposal. And then when I put spiritual cardio into a book proposal, the editors at Hay House looked at my book proposal and they were like, you need to start teaching this. This is amazing. This is great. That's how spiritual cardio was born. It was a book proposal. So that's still in the works. That'll still happen at some point. But the universe conspires to make this beautiful work of art with all the work that you do on yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Hey, ladies, are you craving transformation and personal growth? Are you ready to get radically honest with yourself and own your story? Are you ready to build confidence so that you can manifest your goals? If so, then this may be just what you're looking for. Spiritual Cardio is a course in transformational wisdom that combines traditional spiritual practices with real life experience. At Spiritual Cardio, we heal in community where we can be vulnerable and raw. Because when one woman speaks her truth, she begins to heal, and she opens the door for another woman to speak hers. At Spiritual Cardio, every lesson is designed with you in mind. That includes practical tools with relatable real-life examples. At Spiritual Cardio, we help identify and release energetic blocks so that you can become the architect of your destiny. Head over to valeriezapeta.com to read the powerful testimonials from previous clients and register for an upcoming session. Group and one-on-one coaching is available. All sessions are live and in real time. Now back to the show. So, how has your life changed since you did the program? What positive changes or like what manifestations have happened for you?
During the time that I was part of the program and asking myself those hard questions, really taking self inquiry, it made me just realize that there's so much more I want and so much bigger, and how my self worth, I really put it in perspective. And it was confident enough after spiritual cardio to end my relationship that wasn't serving me anymore. I was able to walk away from that relationship. I was also able to, put a lot of boundaries up, with family, friends, even with work, work life balance. I was able to really put down some boundaries in that way. And I manifested, moving out on my own. That was something that I mentioned when we were barely, starting spiritual cardio. And I remember me and you had a one on one, and I was just, you asked me about goals. I had those goals, but I didn't know that something that I had wanted and dreamt about and thought about was possible to happen like within weeks. Like I thought these goals were so far away, I didn't realize I was gonna take that like leap of faith of leaving that relationship as fast as I did, honestly, like the way it happened. And immediately I was able to realize that there was more for me. My dreams were just at the other side of leaving my comfort zone. So, because of your program, it really did put in perspective like where I was, where I wanted to be, and what I needed to do to be where I wanted to be. So, I made the change of, yeah, like just leaving the relationships that weren't serving me, putting up more boundaries, and just taking those leaps of faith and
Yeah.
letting go and letting God do its thing, do his thing, and just trusting the process and trusting that everything will be okay, as long as I'm putting in the work for myself. and
Yeah.
I'm listening to my heart.
Yeah. And a lot of it starts with the self inquiry because when we are suppressing these stories or these traumas and we're just minimizing them or suppressing the inner child, like that is using up our energy, right? So when we start making peace with that and owning that, then that energy gets redirected towards the work that you did, right? Towards the confidence, towards the faith, towards the self-love, towards the self-value where you're like, I could do this. I have these goals and I want to work towards them. So that energy that's being used to suppress now gets redirected to all of these beautiful things that are helping you grow. And then you start realizing, like, you look back and realize how unrecognizable you are. Now you have your own place. Now you've grown confident enough to leave that relationship that just wasn't serving you. And then that leap of faith did what? You met somebody else who was an amazing person.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like just being able to really just not to be so stuck, like not to be so afraid of taking the leap of faith to leave the relationships. And the next person that I was able to meet like was just everything in a person that I wanted. And if it wasn't for, leaving the past, I wasn't able to finally find my future. It was that, and then being able to like really put my foot down when it comes to family, being able to put my boundaries up and say, hey, I understand growing up in a Latina household, it was, the women do everything, the women take care of everything. And then, it was just too much. It was too much for me. I couldn't handle it. And I had to put my foot down and finally say, I have to do this for me. I have to worry about me. I have to, in a way, be selfish. That selfishness that, like, growing up Latina in a Latina household, you don't really get to see, because my mom didn't grow up with the same opportunities that I did, with the same like situations and education and everything, that I was like, wait, we're different. I'm over here needing to break these cycles, and this generational trauma like ends here, and needing to make those actions to really make that like a point, make it like a point to, okay, this is where it ends, this is where I'm gonna now grow, and we're gonna all be okay. Not, it's not the end of the world, like everything's gonna be fine. Family's still there, I'm gonna be fine, everyone's gonna be fine. Just being able to take those steps. I know it was really hard, because a lot of it could be like judgmental, like our families could be so judgmental, and like just doing what I needed to do without feeling the fear of like judgment.
Yeah, and that's the beauty about committing to your own personal growth is that you find the courage to put up your boundaries, not in a way to like isolate yourself or like not to be arrogant with other people or family, but it's to create a boundary where you start putting yourself first. Because if you show up as your best self to your family, like that might inspire them to commit to their own personal growth. So really you are uplifting the world around you by committing to yourself. So some people could see that as selfish if they haven't worked on themselves, because somebody who has worked on themselves and committed to their own personal growth, they're going to see the value in you committing to your personal growth.
Exactly. It was that like mind shift that I needed to make, of like, okay, I'm so afraid of what my family will think, to, okay, this is going to be a good thing for everyone. Let's just not care about those thoughts, like not let those thoughts stop me from doing what I knew was going to be best for me and my family.
I'm so happy that you took the program and you've had a lot of things manifest in your life and you trusted me with the process. You can easily, look for something else, but you trusted spiritual cardio and me to do the work with you. So what made you choose spiritual cardio or my program versus something else?
So, because I already knew you, and I had I remember we met, you were my neighbor,
Yeah.
and we started following each other on social
Yeah.
media. And like, when someone walks by you, you're like, hi, bye. But then on social media, you start to kind of like, okay, see what they're all about. And I realized that and it's funny because I don't know if you remember, but I had invited you to an event that I was working on. It was like women, wealth, and wine. And I felt so bad when I realized after that you're sober. But at the same time, it intrigued me to realize, oh, wow, like this is someone I can look up to, someone who has a great example of being an independent woman who's sober and is like kind of like living the life I want to in a way. So, with that, like just having that like awe about, wow, she's sober, she's growing herself, like she's someone that, I know is a professional, and it just gave me the confidence to like support. First of all, I was like, oh, I want to support your program. And then realizing I'm killing two birds in one stone. I'm supporting you as a friend, and I'm also learning and growing and eventually becoming someone like you, like someone that I looked up to. And, eventually just being like that independent woman and taking that sober path a lot more seriously. Like I see your growth and how, you've manifested this program, your book proposal, everything that's gone in your life. Like you're someone to look up to. You're someone of great value and someone to look up to. So that's
Oh,
why I took it into, okay, if I'm going to do this program, like it's
yeah.
going to be with Valerie, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, it does because we were neighbors and yeah, we would just say hi and passing, right? Like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And then you invited me to the finance workshop and I went cuz I wanted to support you. I was like, "Oh, well, here's my neighbor and she's invited me to this event, like I'm going to go and support her." And it's so interesting because then I don't know how much later it happened, but then spiritual cardio was created. And then you in turn turned around and supported me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. Something that I wanted to mention is at that time when we were neighbors, I was barely starting out and I was still doing a lot of healing work. And I remember I would like curl up on my couch and cry because I wanted to write a book. I just didn't believe that I could. I just didn't believe that I had it in me or the capacity. It's like my heart wanted something, but my mind was not aligned with it. So I'd curl up on my couch and freaking cry because the belief wasn't there. But as I continued growing and I was committed to doing my spiritual cardio, I was able to write a beautiful book proposal. So I manifested this, right? That's what I mean by that. You keep doing this work, the energy that is being used to like suppress and cover up these insecurities gets redirected towards creativity, towards self worth, towards self esteem, confidence. And then all of a sudden, it's like that insecurity of not being able to write a book anymore is gone. Because I wrote a book proposal. And at that time, I was being mentored by the executive editors of Hay House and Hay House's CEO. Hay House is the number one self help publisher in the United States. So once they read my book proposal, they were like, you need to start teaching this like ASAP. This is great. That's what I mean by like, we've got to do the work because the energy will get redirected towards positive things in your life that will help you reach your goals, that will help you manifest things that you've always wanted. You become the architect of your destiny because that energy is now going towards the things that you want and not suppressing the things that you should have let go already. It helps you do that.
Exactly. And you honestly set such a great example for like Latina women all over in every age group. Like you really are a great example. And that's why, being able to be so like being able to just, okay, meeting you as a neighbor, like, hi, bye. But then like getting a glimpse of oh, wow, this woman is doing so much and is a great person and a great example. And like through your growth, you can see like your glow. It's so attractive, and like someone that like that is like a great just example in person and like leader.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I don't know if people realize like how much of a blessing it is for somebody to take the time. Time is so valuable,
Of
right?
course. Yeah, and I appreciate you for inviting me, and yes, I agree. But I would do anything for you, girl. Let me know.
Oh, thank you so much. I guess one of the last questions I have is if you were to recommend the spiritual cardio program to a friend, what would you say?
I would definitely recommend the program. Doesn't matter what walk of life, where you are with your spiritual cardio, beginner, someone a little bit more intermediate, or just someone who thinks that they know it all. They've heard it all. I highly recommend that spiritual cardio is going to be like a perfect addition, or, even just the beginning of a spiritual growth path.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you would like to say to anybody listening to the podcast who might be hesitant about committing to a personal growth journey or anything at all that has to do with your experience with committing to your growth? Is there, for anybody listening, like, what would you say to them?
I would say that no matter where you are in your life, we all have room for growth, especially if you're able to be guided and helped with these important personal like tactics to help heal your inner child, help take inventory of where your heart is and where, what your goals are, and really being truthful to yourself. Like it doesn't matter what part of your journey you are, like just taking this the baby step, taking the baby step of just even asking questions, asking Valerie like, hey Valerie, what is this all about? Just being curious, even if they're just curious on how to get started on your spiritual growth. Just asking, and don't be afraid of just figuring out whether or not it's going to be something that it's worth taking a look at.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I have a lot of group sessions starting. I also have an in person healing circle coming up and a free masterclass too. I think that's next week. So if you know of
Oh,
anybody, yeah, if you know of anybody that is interested, please send them my way. I'm happy to answer any questions.
yeah, sounds good. I just recently joined a network of like women around Long Beach.
I saw that.
We're going on the walks and stuff, and I would be happy to add in like your Instagram and your links to things onto this,
Yeah.
because a lot of these women are, like-minded individuals looking for growth. They're in the health and wellness
Yeah.
journey. So that would be awesome. I'm happy to share information with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to go on one of the walks with you guys because I saw what you posted and I was like, I would
Yeah.
love to do that.
Yeah, come join us. We're gonna have our next one tomorrow, I believe, in Junipero Beach.
You know what? You won't need to send me your address because I will meet up with you personally and give you some spiritual cardio merch and goodies for just as a token of my appreciation for taking the time to do this with me today. I really appreciate you. I'm happy that you have grown a lot and that your life has transformed and you're in a much better place. You're doing wonderful, and I'm excited to see what else is to come.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Spiritual Cardio Podcast. If you're ready to transform and become the best version of yourself, sign up for an upcoming group session today at valeriezapeta.com. If you'd like to support the show, there's several ways you can do that. Share this episode with someone you love, follow at Spiritual Cardio on social media, and make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast platform. And if you want to support my mission, you can donate to the show via valeriezepeda.com/donate. This is Valerie Z. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Hey, thank you for showing up and spending some time with me. If you loved this episode, please make sure to subscribe. And for exclusive content, you can sign up for my newsletter at valeriezepeda.com. I'll see you guys at the next show.